A few weeks ago, I went to see Dangerous Animals at the Ritz cinema with director Sean Byrne doing a Q&A. It was a fantastic experience and a great crowd-pleasing film, full of great suspense and thrills. After the film screened, he did a Q&A and spoke about the film, and it was fantastic. I even got to ask a question at the very end of the Q&A. I even afterwards got to speak to him. We had a great chat, and I even got a picture with him. It was fantastic. Great time all around. But the reason I'm recording this is just to let you know that I recorded the Q&A as well. Whilst I recorded the Q&A, 5 minutes in, my arm just couldn't hold the camera anymore, and I ended up putting it on the chair, and you can't really see very much, but you can still hear the conversation. So hopefully it doesn't affect your experience too much if you just prefer to listen to this rather than watch the video. But I thought it was still worth sharing. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the Q&A, and go and see Dangerous Animals. It's great. Now on to the Q&A.
Woo! And over the stage, one more big one. Firstly, congratulations on the film, Sean. It's so fun seeing the crowd because you can just see people screaming, applauding, laughing. It really comes alive with an audience. First, I'm going to kick things off asking about this film just screened at Cannes. You just came back from Director's Spotlight there. A huge honour, especially for a shark film. Can you tell us about that experience?
It was kind of crazy because it's like the first time an audience had seen finished films. I was terrified, as I don't exactly associate like Cannes with shark films, and it's like, how they're going to judge this? Is it going to be like a total sort of cinephile crowd that's good? But they absolutely loved it, which was a great kind of relief. And I think there are so many serious films I kind of ready to unleash, and I think they also appreciated the fact that it kind of flipped the shark film on its head a little bit, and the shark wasn't the monster, and man was the monster, and it was sort of, it's a ride first and foremost, but there's a bit of subversion there.
I think one thing I really want to keep things talking about, unlike The Loved Ones and Devil's Candy, you're not the credited writer of this film. I'd love to hear what's your relationship to the script, and I guess the new challenge of filming a film that's not from your writing.
It was like, I spent a couple of years on the project, and then when I first received it, it was kind of like a $70 million kind of horror film. There was a lot of shark film, there was a lot of kind of action underwater, and it just didn't seem feasible. But Nick Leopard's a new writer, and to his absolute credit, everything that works about the film was on the page to begin with. Tucker was very charismatic, and it's how the spider catches the fly, and it was like this combination of kind of serial killer film and shark film, and had a shark kind of conservation angle where it kind of, masterpiece of Jaws is, it kind of like, it kind of righted that wrong in terms of they're not really sort of monsters, and so as soon as I read it, it was like, it felt like he kind of cracked the code that this was the first sort of original shark film since Jaws, or at least it was coming at it from a different angle, and then it was about just whittling it down so it was feasible and sort of way less sharks, and really relying on the power of the fin, a bit like, learning lessons from Jaws. And I feel like, there's so many shark films out there, and a lot of them get quite almost video gaming, and it's easy to show a lot of sort of sharks, so we tried to kind of strip it back a bit and engage the imagination a bit more.
And taking it from script to screen, what are like the new unique challenges of taking someone else's writing and then applying your filmmaking or craft to it? What was that like for you?
Well, it didn't feel that different. It's something that I've written myself, because I was on it for such a long time, and we would just sort of send the script back and forth. And Nick is like the loveliest guy. Like he's a surfer, and his wife's a marine biologist, and he basically is Moses. So whenever I was thinking about like just directing Josh, it was like just something Nick, except that Josh had kind of better abs, nothing against Nick.
And great pecs as well. There was a round of applause when his pecs were revealed.
I don't know. So I guess it's like anything when you make a film. Just you try and there's so many elements that you try and kind of become one somehow, and so we were kind of, by the end we were thinking we were one brain, and I always like, unless you know the subtext, it's impossible to direct it, but by the end I felt like we worked together for so long that it was just, I understood it as well as if it was my own script.
Right, so nice. We're going to try to do audience questions a little bit, but I think just jumping off from one of the points you made as well about Tucker in scripts, I think this is like a phenomenal performance from Jack Courtney. It's so exciting. Can you talk about, I think it's something that you do really well in the film as well, which is pitting a hero against a villain. Can you kind of talk about the relationship between those two lead characters and I guess being able to give the audience that energy to care about both?
Yeah, well, I think it's sort of like you almost want that mirroring between antagonists and protagonists, and in a way it's like a collision course between these two broken sort of people. And I think Zephyr uses the sea, in a way that uses her kind of loneliness, whereas Tucker's kind of using it almost for selfish purposes in a way. But he's like, he's very Giles, and he's amazing. I felt like in a way he was kind of bored to play this role because he's so kind of charismatic and weird in a great kind of way, and he's such a physical threat. But Tucker's such a kind of mansplainer, and Zephyr, played by Hassie, is sort of like, she's almost the opposite. She's sort of quite quiet and quieter in her actions speak, sort of louder than words, and she keeps people at a bit of an arm's length, but there's such a kind of tenacity there and heart there, so even though they're coming at each other from kind of different angles, it's like, I don't know, it's like kind of a sloppy version of like the Pacino De Niro scene in Heat or something, where it's like, when they talk about they're both sharks, weirdly, even though they're kind of trying to destroy each other, they kind of in a way understand each other more than probably anyone else does, because they're both sort of come from nothing. And I mean, it's a fun fact about sharks that they kind of give birth to their young in the shallows and then they leave them to fend for their own devices. So they are kind of, literally, they kind of are really sharks. These are two people that are just like have nothing. And I think it's it's a bit similar to Loved Ones, where Zephyr's kind of paying off a tough upbringing becomes her kind of saviour. But with Jai kind of, or Tucker, it kind of drives him off a cliff.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that makes the character really work is, he's got great taste in music. And I think that's something I always associate with you as well, is I think about that Casey Chambers needle drop in The Loved One, which is, in my opinion, the greatest needle drop in any Australian film ever made. And here, I really want to talk to you about this film's relationship with music, because there's some great found and sourced soundtrack music in that mixtape sense that gives so much essence to which each character is and how to represent them. But then also the scores that I really want to talk about. But could we talk about the mixtape first, how it kind of gives identity to each of those characters?
Yeah, I'm a big kind of needle drop fan, and when you see a Tarantino movie, it's like it feels like it's so cinematic and it comes to life, and it's propulsive, and it's kind of like, it's been part of talking about cinema, it's like, it should be invisible, but I think it's always kind of a chance to show off, but it also has to be grounded in character. So when Tucker's listening to Evie, he would, that's like an Australian classic. He's at this kind of seedy marina, and it's probably what he would listen to, and it's about, letting your hair hang down, and that's a part of his kind of MO as a serial killer, and crowded house means to me, it's like she came all the way from America, she had a blind date with Destiny, which is what's going on with the character, and even if you do, you kind of is like in a way it's like the crux of the love story, and what Creed's represents with most of their songs, which is about the kind of, they're kind of like political or the voice of the disenfranchised, but you can also just kind of have fun and let love in. So I feel like like songs can work in a narrative sense and be fun, and you can have your cake and kind of eat it too.
And with score in this as well, I mean, we've already mentioned Jaws, which has, maybe the most iconic two notes in any film ever. The score for this, that kind of gives the undercurrent to the action. It also kind of plays with just two notes, really. Can you talk about developing the score for this film?
well, it's kind of stay away from those two notes, but also kind of somehow summon them. Because it was, so obviously, it's so kind of iconic. But, yeah, I mean, I was, worked with Michael Guzerski, but I worked with on the Devil's Candy, and the differences couldn't have been more kind of profound. It was like, we had someone who specialised kind of in metal on the Devil's Candy, and weirdly, even though that's just a metal film, it wasn't kind of coming together. So Michael was called that entire film in 7 sleepless days, and kind of, channel kind of Satan. But then on, then on Dangerous Animals, it was like, I don't know, I wanted it to feel more like a popcorn film. We talked almost even about speed and these kind of like aspirational kind of themes, and it was a really hard score where it's very character based, and when the title slams on, that's the start of Tucker's theme, and when Zeph is leaving Moses, that's the beginning of her theme, and these two things kind of intersect and become they kind of disintegrate as the characters, get more and more worn down, and it's quite operatic, but yeah, it was, I don't know, it felt far more kind of intellectual than the Devil's Candy, but it couldn't feel like that. It still had to feel like escapism, and it's I love this. I mean, this is me just I sort of made the film. It's like hats off to Michael. He's the most amazing composer, and it's like it's seriously one of my favourites. So I keep going. I can't like it's on Spotify at the moment, so just looking at driving in the car. It's fun.
Both was sweet with this, is what I reckon. We've got time for some audience questions, so if you've got any questions in the crowd, raise your hands. We'll send the microphone over to you. Wow, go to the person that's demanding the microphone. It's a rare move. I've never seen that before in all my years of hosting Q&A, so we have to go for it.
I don't know, I read a long time ago that the shark film is the only type of film that's never lost money, and we know that he's there. I mean, my kind of pet subject is sort of serial killers, and then, I don't know, they're hard to get off the ground because sometimes humans hunting other humans doesn't make people feel safe as like supernatural films do, or even waiting on the devil.
Well, Jaws, I guess Australia, right? Jaws, sharks, I think that's a big thing, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's like sharks are kind of everywhere, and it's like they're still in, I think, the top 3 universal fears, and the thought of kind of being eaten alive is such a kind of like, I don't know, this kind of like such a kind of primordial, unpleasant kind of. So I mean, I think they're great from kind of a horror perspective, but I just thought it was so, Nick's script just flipping it on its head, and the shark actually not really being the baddie. I mean, there's kind of shark attacks in this, but they're always at the manipulation of man, and everything that's in the film is true about chumming the waters on shark cage, kind of like tours. That's all. Even though it's illegal, it's what's happening at the moment to make sure that customers actually get what they're paid for. And now sharks associate boats with food, and I just found all of that really interesting. So it was kind of a way to kind of have our cake and eat it too. And it's definitely two for the price of one film. It's like serial killers and sharks.
Good bargain. Any more questions? We've got one here at the front. We'll bring the microphone to the front here. While it's making its way to you, just on the topic of sharks, you talk about filming the sharks. Like, what were they real sharks? Are they CGI?
No, 80% of the sharks are real because it was all kind of, very carefully bordered, and we had photographic references. So we had a shark researcher, and there was particular angles that we were looking for, and we wanted to make sure the sharks were in, Australian waters or Gold Coast kind of waters, and so we kind of blended that in with the footage. And sometimes it was like if there were actors in the shot, we'd like rotoscope the sharks, and we'd add the sharks in with the actors, and it would be blended in the grade. And so the only CGI sharks are the fins. So everything underwater is real sharks. Everything above water is like CGI because it's obviously very difficult to kind of block with, so you kind of need that. The breaching shark at the end is a real shark, and it's exactly the same shark as the shark that's coming with Zephyr underwater. We made sure that they all match. I wanted to, I was adamant that they had to have scars, because I've never seen a shark film where the scars had sharks. They're always so kind of, the sharks had scars, they're always kind of so sleek, but just the same way as humans have scars, and it kind of helps define us. So I kind of wanted that to be the case. So we actually had a real kind of shark incident on set as well. So one turned up as an extra, and we had a team of divers that were kind of, we had actors in like what's called a marine life barrier, and then we had safety divers monitoring the perimeter, and we were told the only chance of a shark incident is if you're basically in the same spot for a long time, and we actually shot this on water. It wasn't in a tank. We were a month kind of out there. I guess they just got curious, because it's like, who are these people just staying in the same spot? And so the diver got kind of pulled under, his skin got ripped off, and you keep with the theme of the film, the shark didn't go any further, just kind of was a bit curious and then swam off, said hello, and wasn't really fun for it.
Just blessing the film.
Yeah.
The question from you, sir.
Well, firstly, I want to say, wonderful job on the direction. We all know that an actor isn't anything without its director, so Joe Courtney has a lot to thank for you on that part. And we all know that, as you just said, you wanted to make a popcorn flick, like Jaws. And we all know the most unrealistic thing about Jaws is, someone willingly scratching a chalkboard with their fingernails. I just wanted to know, the most unrealistic thing for you with this film, how did it feel making a real estate person a good person?
The question was, how did you make a real estate agent a hero in this film?
I'm not sure. I guess that's the first as well. We wanted Moses just to go, he was from, Zephyr's from one side of the tracks and he's from the other, and it was part of the meet cute that it was like, she just like, she assumes that he's kind of lumping and she judges the book by its cover, and he's actually kind of something else, and so it was just pretty much a construction of the script to get a bit of, to get a little bit of kind of humour and start in an awkward way when they're in the band together, before he reveals his amazing house.
We've got time about one more question. Where is guy here on the side? Everyone's working.
Oh, thanks, mate. Just want to say thank you, Sean, for making this film. This was a real crowd pleaser, as you could clearly have saw and heard tonight. My question is in regards to the character of Tucker. Developing a character like that, and the how you approached Joe Courtney, or how Joe Courtney was approached for this film, and how you got him involved.
It was green. It's so late that we actually didn't have a cast, and we were a couple of weeks out, and so it was kind of a fair bit of pressure on. When I responded to the script, it was everyone was really excited, but it was kind of like, well, we need to get him, because otherwise we're not going to have film, and it was like, no, say this, say that, no, just kind of use your instinct. And so when I spoke to him, it was he was just charismatic straight from the outset, and he just wanted to know kind of where this kind of character came from. So we spoke a bit about like Tucker as a 7-year-old, and like kind of the parental neglect, and kind of like the warped socialisation, and kind of everything that led him to the point where the film kind of starts. And we talked about if you're a kid in school and you've been attacked by a shark and you're kind of a little bit weird, and you're in the newspaper and everyone wants to know you for 5 seconds, and then you're just the guy that can't stop talking about sharks and how these kind of victims of the boat, it's kind of like this perfect opportunity to keep them, literally just locked there and like talking about his kind of favourite subject. But like any kind of illness, you kind of start to know, you start to know it intimately, and yeah, just like how it sort of was the most like the most terrifying moment of his life, but also also has been in a way the most thrilling, and how he kind of lives that vicariously through his victims, but in a way he's killing the source of his pain over and over again. So there's all this kind of like, intellectual kind of backstory, but then he just kind of unleashes, and it was incredible to work with, because like a lot of actors like to go through the script and break it down into objectives and what's going on here, but he's kind of not like that. He just has his attention span is completely different. He just wanted to actually get on the boat and then get into the sets, like the main cabin, and he would just stalk the space. And as he did it, I could actually see Tucker coming to life kind of in his eyes, and he's like, I don't know, in a way I feel like this is the role that he's been waiting for, because
I could tell.
Trying to kind of cast him as he's in Terminator and Die Hard and like Suicide Squad, where Captain Boomerang is actually pretty great, pretty unhinged. But he's such a kind of like weird character actor, and so I think he really kind of embraced it, and we talked about what a great opportunity horror is for an antagonist to take centre stage in quite a theatrical kind of way. It still has to be layered, but if you look at like Kathy Bates in Misery, it's so much fun, or Christian Bale in like American Psycho, or Jack Nicholson in The Shining. You can, you can really kind of own it, and he got excited about that. So I just kind of let him go. He's really an incredible actor. I know this is a pretty long-winded answer, but he actually wouldn't even learn his lines that much, which I'm so petrified of like fucking up. I do as much preparation as possible. The Jai is so relaxed, as long as he knows the psychology of the scene and what's going to happen. He actually doesn't like to even read his lines until you're almost about to do a take. And he's got this amazing photographic memory, and he goes, that way every time he says it is fresh, and he was always kind of finding the guy, and I just can't say enough kind things about him, because he's also such a team player, and he never wants to go first, and he never wants to leave set, and he's always there for the other actors, and he's always there for the crew as well, and he's just so great for kind of morale, and so I'm just grateful. I'm just so happy that he's getting such kind of great reviews for this performance, because it is so fun and messed up, and I don't know. It feels like 100% try to port me other than he doesn't do it.
I mean, I think you put it so well, and it does feel like the role he was born to play. It's so fantastic, man. I actually can't think of a better way to end this than ending on that note. So please give Sean Byrne a big round of applause. Again, we're going to get muffed up with some crazy shark horror film, mates. But also, being Normal Joyce, give yourself a